Okay, we'll go back on the record for our 10:15 meeting. The time is now 10:20. Apologize for the delay. This is a report, final report from Clearwater Financial, presentation for the Latah County Sheriff's Office, Law Enforcement Center, and Jail. So, thanks Jace and Sheridan for attending remotely. And we'll just turn it over to you two.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. We appreciate the opportunity to present this final report to you. It's been a pleasure to get to work with the county staff, the sheriff's staff, and with commissioners on this project. In front of you, or you should have in your packets, a final report. And included in that final report is an overview of the public engagement campaign that we did. We'll go through a presentation that walks through the information in the report, but I want to point you to that as a document that summarizes everything that was done and the results of that work. Inside the report, there is a project summary, some background information. There's supporting appendixes that also have detailed reports, including the final survey results, stakeholder summary, the presentation that we've done previously, overview of all of the earned media that has been, obtained by the county through this process, voter demographic report, and then a history and a timeline that we put together for this project as well. So all that information is in the report, and I encourage you to look through that, and if you have any questions on the report, please feel free to ask us about those. And diving into the presentation, which is an overview of that report, we wanted to walk back to the beginning when you first engaged us. And at the beginning of this process was right around the time that the jail was closed. And at that point in time, the context of the situation was there wasn't a lot of understanding within the public as to the current condition of the jail, why it was being closed, some uncertainty as far as next steps. And that's where we were engaged to help with that, communicate the conditions of the jail, why it was closed, and also potential next steps and how that could be accomplished, and working with the public on that. We started off, we did an on-site tour, had the opportunity to come and video the jail facility, and created a video that was shared with the public, and went through various other data gathering and information gathering efforts throughout between October and May, including stakeholder interviews. We had a survey that was outstanding through that process, citizens committee that was convened a couple of times, prepared some outreach materials that were shared via social media, email campaigns and flyers, and website content that was put in a website for the jail project, and informing the public on that. And then that all culminated in a commissioner's update that we went through about a month ago, and walked through that information. Since then, we've continued to have, we had some really good earned media outreach after that meeting. The survey remained open, so we had the opportunity to gain some additional feedback from the survey, and we'll walk through some of the final survey results, but also some information just on the respondents after that meeting, to kind of highlight a little bit of maybe the difference of the understanding of the public of the situation since that first meeting, highlighted the results of this project. And then that's where we are here today. And Sharon's going to walk through a little bit more specifics on the different pieces that we did.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you, commissioners. We talked briefly about some of these things at our last presentation, but we wanted to go through them again in a bit more detail, and these are also explained in a bit more detail in the final report, as Jason mentioned as well. So to start off, as Jace mentioned, when we first started this project, we did a site tour. The sheriff and jail deputies and county staff took us through the jail and explained the challenges with the facility and a lot of the issues that it had been facing over the years. As we were on that tour, we recorded audio and interviews with the sheriff and deputies and county staff. We took photos and video to really kind of try to capture the facility and its conditions. We took all of that audio and photo and video and created a video, as Jace mentioned, which gives a tour of the jail and highlights some of the challenges that the facility is facing right now. That video was shared on the sheriff's Facebook page, was posted on the sheriff's Facebook page, and then other users shared that over 31 times, which is a pretty good number, plus several comments and likes as well. The video is also posted on YouTube, and that YouTube video is linked on the current project webpage. And this can be a really useful tool in the future, whichever route the county decides to go to help continue to share, give residents a view into the jail that many residents have never had before. We also created various outreach materials, a lot of them focused on encouraging residents to take the survey, as that was one of the main tools that we used during this project. So we had a few different social media posts that were shared on the sheriff's Facebook page, and the county shared those as well. We did 2 press releases, one specifically about the survey, and then another regarding the update that we gave to the commissioners last month. Between both of those press releases and then the other outreach that we did, that, as Jace mentioned, earned quite a lot of media and press coverage. I think we received at least 17 articles since the end of January regarding the jail. So we've gotten really good coverage, and as we talked about last time, and we'll mention again with the survey results in a bit, local newspapers and radio are a really big communication tool that residents really appreciate. So that's been a good success of this project. We also created a flyer and a survey handout that could be used at events or other in-person events to help people take the survey as well. As we discussed last time, we did a series of stakeholder interviews. So the county provided a list of 10 stakeholders. After reaching out to them and a couple rounds of follow-up, we ended up completing 5 interviews. The stakeholders had a lot of good perspectives. They were very familiar with the jail and with public safety and law enforcement in the county, and provided a lot of good feedback on the jail facility, on the effects of the closure, and on considerations the county should make as it moves forward. We also analyzed voter demographics. So we looked at how many voters are anticipated to participate in the November 2026 election if the county should decide to put a bond measure on the November ballot. And that voter demographics gives a breakdown of age, gender, and party participation to help give the county an idea of who is most likely to show up at the polls. At the beginning of this project, we put together a list of FAQs with answers. We had about 9 initial FAQs, and then recently we worked with the county to update those FAQs. And so now we have just over 30, I think, and those are all based on the feedback and comments that we've received throughout this project. So through the survey, from the stakeholders, from the Citizens Committee, from the news articles that were put out there, we took all of that feedback to expand and update those FAQs. These are going to be a really valuable tool moving forward, as they can be shared on the webpage or on social media. and with staff and residents to help get out accurate information. As Jace mentioned, we also formed and met with, Citizens Committee. We met with them twice prior to this, to again get feedback from them. They were very familiar with law enforcement and public safety in the county and have a lot of passion for it and for helping the county and the sheriff and the jail. A lot of their feedback really highlighted the importance of more information. They needed more information from the county regarding what exactly the county wants to do. If they are going to build a new jail, how big is it going to be? What's going to be the cost, etc. We also, regarding the webpage, created content for a project webpage. The content included a summary of the jail closure, the jail conditions, the FAQs, photos from the site tour, and a high-level project timeline. The webpage, there is a webpage. Some content still needs to be added, but that is going to be a really useful tool and hub for all of that information as the county moves forward, that residents can go to receive answers to questions and get any info that they're looking for. In addition to all of this, the sheriff and his team have participated and given a few different presentations over the past 6 months to different community organizations, including like the Chamber of Commerce, to help give an explanation of the jail and give people an opportunity to ask questions in person, and those have been really successful. Earlier in the process, we had worked on doing a postcard to help gather responses for the survey. We designed the postcard, got the address list ready, and got cost estimates, but ultimately the county decided to not move forward with that due to the cost. But that is something to consider for the future, as it is a good way to reach every resident in the county. And then recently, we also put together a narrative history and a timeline graphic for the jail. So the narrative explains not just the conditions and challenges with the jail, but the history of the jail facility when it was first built, what has been done in the past and what is being done now, and the conversations that have happened before regarding the jail facility and its challenges and kind of paths moving forward. And so that again is another useful tool that can be shared, added to the webpage, shared online, and shared with residents and staff to help explain what has been done regarding the jail so far. This page is just some of the visuals of some of the outreach materials we helped with, just as an idea of what those looked like. And then we also just wanted to mention, in addition to the site tour that we went on at the beginning of the project, the sheriff and his deputies have taken several other people through the jail during this process. Stakeholders, they took the Citizens Committee through the jail, and other community members. And again, that has provided a really good opportunity for people to see the facility in person and ask and get answers to their questions and get a better understanding of why, fixing the jail is maybe easier said than done. I'll pass it back to Jace.
Yeah, one of the aspects of this was looking at voter demographics, and the information here is useful, especially if you compare it to survey results, to give you an idea of those that vote in the county. And as we look at survey results and those that responded to the survey, comparing those demographics to see if the feedback that we're getting through that tool aligns with those that will likely vote in an election. And looking specifically at your 23,000 plus registered voters. Likely about 16 to 17,000 of those would turn out in a general election. So that's just kind of some information there. Primarily, your voter demographic is in the older age, 60 to 74 being the largest group there. Fairly evenly split, but slightly more female voters than male voters. And so this information is just helpful as it relates to your constituents and who's involved there. Or ultimately, the constituents are those that get to help decide on funding tools as it relates to facility needs. The other thing to consider too is we go through this, and I think that there is another piece on the agenda we can talk a little bit more too, but as it relates to the website, there is some information on there, but there is an opportunity to add more information on the website to make it more interactive, to add additional content to it, and do that going forward to continue to educate the community on this and solutions as you move forward and have more information about the path forward. So just wanted to mention that. We can talk a little bit more about that as we get into the conclusions and recommendations.
So next, Jason, you want to take this?
Yeah, and looking at the survey and walking into some of this, we went through a lot of the results last time, and so we'll go through those again, but a little bit of the lens of updates from the responses since we met last time. Largely, they're very similar, but there are some trend differences which are interesting to highlight. Overall, we ended up with 1,115 respondents, up from, I think it was just under 1,000 the last time. So we've had a little over 100 responses since the last time we met. And as we look at those, the number isn't the same, but how they responded, I think, gives us a little insight as to how folks are viewing this post, having more information versus earlier on when they didn't have as much information about the current conditions of the jail. With this, I think one thing that's really important to note, and I think Sherry will talk a little bit about it as well, but the coverage of the survey with the local media was very strong. It was very helpful and supportive from a sense of getting the word out that the survey was out there and making it available to the public. And I think that was a very strong tool to help get the word out and get folks to give their feedback through the survey. So as we walk through these results, just kind of keep in mind that this is not necessarily a scientific survey as far as it's going to directly result in the population percentages of responses, but it does give some really good insight as to the information that people have, what they understand, and how they would like to potentially move forward.
So I don't want to go into the survey results in too much detail since we went through them in pretty close detail at the last meeting. Again, we've had, I think, 126 additional respondents since our last update. A lot of these results are pretty similar. The orders and priorities are similar, but I'll note the key changes as we go through this. But again, I'll go through this pretty high level since we went through in detail last time. So quickly, as the demographics of those who took the survey, we give a breakdown of where the respondents lived compared to where the registered voters live, and it's a pretty accurate representation there. Breakdown by age of respondents versus age of voters. Again, you get heavier representation in this 55 and over, 65 and over, which aligns with voter breakdowns as well. We have a gender breakdown, slightly skewed to the females, with about 52.5 respondents being female, again, corresponds with a bit more of the voters likely to turn out will be skewed female. And then most of the respondents have lived here for more than 10 years. Key communication questions that I'll just emphasize again, as this is important info for the county. The top 3 methods for communication were social media, local newspaper and radio, and the county website. So early on in the survey, we asked where respondents have learned information about the jail thus far, and social media, local news, and word of mouth were the top 3. When we asked them how they prefer to receive information at the end of the survey, the county website, social media, and local newspaper were the top 3. Again, just emphasizing the importance of kind of keeping that web page robust and continuing to get local news coverage and social posts as well.
One thing too, just real quick, Sheridan, on that, I think it's important to note, and you're all aware well of this, but word of mouth is, your community is talking about this, so that's a way that folks are finding out information, is that they're talking about it amongst themselves, which is great, and that's a great thing. But it's important to make sure that good factual information is readily available, so that as they're talking about it, they're able to have those conversations based on factual information. So having that good coverage with the local media, social media posts, and then ultimately having that website as a really good source of factual information, it will be really important.
Moving on, familiarity. Most of the respondents were familiar with the jail services. Again, these are maybe slightly higher than our last update, but pretty similar. And the vast majority of respondents were aware that the jail was closed. The main reasons they had heard for the closure were fire safety, poor layout and egress, and electrical hazards. Again, pretty similar to the interim results. We asked respondents, we provided information about the various different challenges of the facility and asked them to indicate how concerned they were about the facility. The closer to 4 the average score is, that means the more worried they are. The top 3 concerns were staff safety, high-risk inmate care, and the boiler room layout, followed closely by liability risks and plumbing challenges. The last 2, ADA compliance and inmate safety, people were less concerned about those, still more on the concerned side than not concerned. This is a similar order and pretty similar scores to the last time. Support for closing the jail. Again, most respondents, after learning all of that information, indicated that they were supportive of the county's decision to close the jail. This is about 1% higher than it was at the interim results, and with both neutral and support going down slightly. The comments on really all of the questions, the main themes of the comments stayed the same, nothing too different there, so I won't go into detail there, but we asked those who were unsupportive of closing the jail what their reasons why, and they still just mentioned it seems like there are other options to just fix the issues, and they really believe in the importance of having a local facility and would rather just keep using the one that they have, and then also feeling like the closure was abrupt and that there are other priorities that the county should be looking at. We provided a couple of the logistics regarding the jail closure, one being the cost to send inmates to another county. So there's about an $11 difference between the cost per inmate per day at Latah versus what the county is paying Ms. Pierce to house the inmates. And then we also provided information about the time spent transporting inmates, which is estimated at about 4 to 8 hours a day. Again, these numbers are pretty dang similar to what they were before, not much change there, but very, respondents are very, show a lot of concern about those things. Vast majority of respondents do think it's important to have a local jail. Again, this went up about 1 percentage point since the interim results.
And one thing on that too, the overall, it just went up 1%. On those respondents that responded post our last meeting, it's up to 90%. So I think that that's an indication that folks, the more that they understand the situation, the more supportive they are of having a local jail.
Jason. We provided kind of 4 main solutions for the jail facility and asked respondents to prioritize those solutions. What came out as number 1 was to build a new facility. This order has not changed since the interim results. I apologize, this percentage is actually wrong. It's actually about 58%. So it again went up by about 1 percentage point. But again, number 1 option was to build a new facility, followed by exploring a regional facility, continuing to contract with other counties, and then number 4 was to renovate the existing facility.
And the note too, on those that have filled out the survey since our last meeting, it's up 71% of those that filled it out since the last meeting. Their number 1 priority was building a new facility.
We asked respondents to rank what factors the county should consider when evaluating options. Their top 3 were long-term safety and compliance, cost to taxpayers, and operational efficiency. These were the same top 3 as last time. And Jace can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that gap between long-term safety and compliance and cost to taxpayers actually increased.
And interestingly enough, on those that responded post our last meeting, the operational efficiency actually ranked 2nd behind long-term safety and compliance. So it went a little bit of cost to taxpayers. So interesting feedback for those that responded post our last presentation.
We had a couple questions about trust. We asked respondents how much trust they currently have in the county to make these decisions. Again, these are similar to what was before, with about 34.5% saying they have some trust and 13% fully trust, to all the way down to about 7% with no trust in the county. When asked what actions would help increase your trust on this issue, the top 2 responses were clear public updates and progress reports and transparent cost estimates. Again, this is very similar to the interim results. We then asked about funding. So the main question here was, would you support a general obligation bond if necessary to fund a new jail? About 50.1% said yes. Again, we asked this question without any context for how much the jail would cost, what the tax impact would be. So that's a pretty solid group saying yes, they would support that. About 29.2% indicated they were still unsure, and about 20.7% said no, they would not support a bond. This yes group is up 1% from the interim results. So prior it was 49%. The unsure group went down a bit. For those who took, just the group that took the survey since our last update, 58% of them said that yes, they would support a bond. And this most of those had come from that unsure slice. So again, and Jason can speak to this more, but as people have learned more about this issue, they tend to be moving more to, more away from the unsure side and more towards the yes side, with still a couple going to the no section.
Yeah, and on that, maybe to expand a little bit, that's kind of the big, I guess, question for the county is what do folks do when they understand the conditions of the jail, the solution options that are available, and how to move forward. And so that big unsure section, which is pretty significant as it relates to a general obligation bond. If you were to pass one, it would require a supermajority of 66 2/3 vote to be able to do that. But what we do see with that movement post our last presentation in here at the end of this project is of the unsure, that went from 29 down to 17, and some of those went to no. So the no's went from 20% up to 23%. So there's folks that got more information and moved to the no, and then as Sheridan mentioned, the yeses went from 50 to 58%. So you still have approximately 18% that are unsure, but it gives us some indication of how folks would move with additional information as they get answers to some of those questions.
And then here on the right, we asked about if they would support a local option tax. That remains a very popular topic currently, even though it is not currently an option. Again, this stayed pretty similar to the interim results, with about 55.5% of respondents saying yes, they would support that. About a quarter were unsure, and about 20% still said no, they would not support a local option tax.
Something that is interesting on that one for the respondents post our last meeting is there was a shift from the no's to the unsures. So the no's went down to 13% and the unsures went up to a little over 30%. So after that last presentation, there were folks, as they got some more information about a local option tax, moved from no to unsure, which is also interesting information. In that option currently isn't available. If the legislature made it available, that would be great. But unfortunately, that's not, but it's good information to have that there is a shift in the public from folks that would have been no on that to unsure.
Breaking down, again, we asked respondents to provide more reasons why they did or did not support a general obligation bond. So just to hit on, again, these didn't really change much since the interim results, but just to hit on these again, because I think they're important. The main theme centered around, around tax impact. They think property taxes are already too high, and there are concerns about living on a limited income, high cost of living, and the current economy. There's also a general feeling about property taxes being an unfair burden on property owners, and then they would prefer that the county look for other funding options. They also expressed concern that there are other community needs right now that are a higher priority than the jail, and some of them just don't want to invest in jails for philosophical and personal reasons. And then there's continued skepticism about the need for a new jail. They prefer the county to pursue the other options, and there are also concerns about how the county can afford to operate a new jail. For those who were supportive of a general obligation bond, their reasons included an understanding that a jail is an important public service and that the current facility is inadequate. And they also understood that a long-term investment may be more cost-effective than short-term fixes. They believe that public safety is a top priority and place importance on staff and inmate safety. Even though they said they would support a general obligation bond, they still hope that the county will look at other funding sources, but they understand that those might be inadequate. And they still want to see transparent planning and responsibility and cost considerations. And they also believe that they would prefer a long-term local solution, that would be much more ideal for kind of all of the law enforcement stakeholders, and that a new facility would be able to provide more modern jail services for both the staff and the inmates. And then last but not least, these last few slides will focus on that group that said that they were unsure of supporting the bond, as that is the group, like Jace mentioned, that you kind of have to work with, right? If the county decides to pursue a bond measure, these are the people that you really need to communicate with. So when they explained why they were unsure of supporting a general obligation bond, their main reasons included they need to know more information. They need to know the actual costs and the tax impact, because again, they have concerns about the property tax burden. They also wanted more detailed plans about the project, and they wanted to be able to see the different solutions and have a comparison of why this option over this option, and be able to see how the county is kind of showing fiscal responsibility, cost control, and looking at all the different solutions. They also, again, emphasize that there are other needs in the community, and they would have to weigh the jail versus those other community needs. And ultimately, they would like transparency and still need additional communication. We broke down the demographics of that unsure group. So they match pretty similarly with the rest of the survey. Females tend to be a bit more unsure than males. The age breakdown is pretty similar, and the city breakdown is pretty similar, although Moscow tends to be a little bit more unsure than normal. And then again, most of them have lived here for more than 10 years. Cross-tabbing that unsure group with other questions in the survey, when asked about what would increase their trust, their top two responses were the same as everyone else, although a little bit higher in percentage. They want to see transparent cost estimates and clear public updates and progress reports. And they want the county to consider cost to taxpayers and long-term safety and compliance, with long-term safety and compliance being that top priority there. And again, their main three ways of communication are similar to everyone else, with social media, local news and radio, and the county website being those top three preferences.
With all of that information and more that's in the report, I encourage you to read that and to dive into that as well. What's next? And as we went through this, we have some suggestions and recommendations on next steps. The first being determining your path forward with the kind of four alternative options that were put in the survey and in the communication. Building a new facility received the most support that through our outreach as an option to move forward. But in doing that, it is really important to clearly communicate with the public what that is. How big is that going to be? What facilities are going to be available? How much is that going to cost? Both in total and as anticipated tax impact. So really communicating the costs and the size and scope of what that facility would be if that was chosen as a path forward. It is important to continue to communicate with the public. We talked a lot about the unsure folks from the survey, but it's important to communicate with everybody. Those that indicated support, those that indicated not supporting, but really having a continued effort to communicate all of the information about this going forward to everybody within your community. And one of the key tools that we think would be really important to do is through updating your website and making that more robust and continuing to add information there. But with that, key, most important is making those decisions to move forward and then communicating those with the public in a continuous, really succinct and ongoing way, so that those conversations can be had in the public and that they were able to make decisions and potential votes with factual information and really be informed on that. You do have a passionate public that is been really involved. They want to understand, they want to know, and that is a really good thing to have them be that engaged. And so with that, again, thank you for letting us help you with this project. We are excited to help in any other way going forward that you would see fit to help with the county and ultimately inform the citizens and be a resource as you make some pretty significant decisions moving forward. But at this point, we stand for any questions that you have on the report.
Thanks, Jace and Sheridan. Commissioners, do you have any clarifying questions?
I don't, I cannot speak all along. I'm very happy with what Clearwater has done for us. And the one thing I really want people to look at is the frequently asked questions. We've gone from 9 to, I don't know, how many, Sheridan? 33?
Yeah, about 33, around there.
There's so much information that people would read those. I think our numbers would start climbing on what we need for a new jail. So there's a lot of information, and I think we vote on that sometime today to get all that information, so Clearwater can get that out on the news books. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Jason. Questions for Jace? Or Sheridan?
That was my nickname growing up, but
Yeah.
I mean, they've done a great job. It's all the information, having that available to the public is important. I know the big topic is transparency. If you're talking to people about it, tell them to go to the website, look at those FAQs. Like Tony said, they went from 9 FAQ questions to 33 now. So there's a lot of information that's there in regards to this topic that would help in those conversations. That way people are getting the correct information, not just speculations, opinions. We want them to have the correct information, not misinformation.
So what is coming in, I think, with the Sheriff's Department and we'll be working on in-house is location, size, and cost. That has to be determined. We don't have those numbers. When we have that information, we will get that out to the public as quickly as possible. But it's an in-house discussion that the sheriff needs to make, a decision the sheriff will make, but he needs to get with his staff and determine what we need to do. But I'm excited in the direction we're going right now.
I think another thing that's critical is what kind of funding mechanism should be pursued. And that to me seems more critical than some of the other questions. And like in terms of timeline.
With that said, I was at a meeting in Kendrick last night because Kendrick, we're talking about property assessment, but
Right.
local option tax did come up. Brandon Mitchell, Dan Foreman, myself, candidate Dan Schoenberg were there trying to answer these questions. Brandon and Dan have been down in Boise last week talking with the Speaker of the House about a local option tax. And those two individuals do hold a lot of influence with our speaker. And he is slowly easing up on this.
Yeah.
Which, we're not gonna wait for the winter session to start. We're working on this right now as we speak. So, that's a good path forward, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think local option tax is really the only legitimate way that we could move this forward, financially.
Agree.
I don't see us being successful putting out a general obligation fund.
Agreed.
I think that we're gonna have competition in November. I suspect the school district is gonna wanna do something. I don't see us doing anything in the short term for a general obligation fund. I think maybe next year, 27. But if the school district is successful in 26, I don't see us being able to move that forward. I think that if the Idaho legislature takes this question seriously and moves forward the ability for local municipalities to do a local option tax, I think we could be successful next year.
I do too. Here's the kicker that nobody's talking about. Even a local option tax takes 66 2/3 vote to get that passed. We're right at 55 right now. So there's no guarantee we would even get local option tax.
That's right.
But with that said, you're absolutely right. This is the best, that is the best path forward. And Speaker Moyle is not only getting pressured from Latah County, he's getting pressured from all over the state of Idaho.
Oh, yeah.
We are one of 22 counties with faulty jail facilities.
Oh, yeah.
I believe this is going to be on the agenda this winter.
I would think so.
That's our push inside this building.
Right, and that, well, I'm sorry, I don't wanna.
I'm done, no.
No,
good.
and that goes to the second point. So the one, my first point is the funding mechanism. Local option tax makes much more sense than a general obligation fund. My second point is, therefore, the timeline, in this situation, both of those would happen in 27, not 26.
Yeah.
Therefore, the timeline seems best if we're trying to start educating the public about the need that we have in Latah County and the potential for what they would be doing, that the timeline for doing an education campaign starts next year in March or something like that. I think doing an education campaign now is premature.
Well, the thing,
That's my feeling about trying to trigger an education campaign at this point. To me, it feels like we have more research to do to find out a funding mechanism. We have more, and that's incumbent upon the Idaho legislature actually trying to solve problems rather than, not. And then also us trying to figure out what the costs are gonna be, what this kind of facility would look like. So those are my current feelings, hearing this and knowing where we've been. I mean, you're the most direct person asking the Idaho legislature for a local option tax, and you know how frustrating it was last year when we tried.
True,
I
true.
mean,
True.
it's,
But as far as the education process goes on this jail, I'm not gonna slow down. We've got the frequently asked questions. In-house here, we need to get the size, the location, and the cost down to be better informed, and then we actually need some drawings. I don't wanna delay, that's what other commissioners have done in the past and nothing's got done. And we need to keep moving forward, that's my push.
so how many people are familiar that the jail has been an issue for 20+ years? So, do you think we should keep delaying and educating the public, or should this be a constant topic we're talking about? If we delay that educational, and it's out of your peripheral, it's not always there, you're gonna forget about it. It's kind of like, how many people have newer vehicles that have the tire sensor that tells you when the tire is getting low, or your check engine light? Well, if that's constantly on, are you gonna go get that service done? That's what we should be doing about this topic. So looking at I don't know what slide it was. It was the slide that had the public engagement visuals. It has that Latah County Jail history. So 1973, 2006, then 2015, 2025. I mean, this has been a problem. They actually mentioned a year after the jail was built, that the jail was gonna be a problem. That was a year after it was built in 1973.
We have a couple people now raising their hands.
So,
Because you asked the question,
Yeah.
so, alright, first I saw BJ and then I saw Carol.
All the people I'm BJ Swanson, I'm the Latah County Treasurer. All the people I've talked with, we know we need a new jail. Our jail is inadequate for our growing community. However, the numbers up there are fine, but the big elephant in the room is cost. And until those taxpayers know how much it's going to increase their tax bill, it is not gonna work. You have 50 or 55% approval up there knowing they need a new jail, which I agree with completely. You put a cost figure in there of $250 to $300 a year added to the average homeowner's taxpayer bill, and that support is probably gonna drop to 35%. So instead of doing that, spend your energy in educating the public on local option taxes. Whitman County passed a 1% increase in tax. They don't have the retail base that we do. That 1% will generate them $10 million. If we had $10 million here on a local option tax, paying off a jail bond of $4 million a year, give $6 million a year to property tax relief. That has worked a number of times in the state of Idaho, but let's concentrate on educating the public about the local option tax. Not only are we educating the public, educating the legislators. It's an election year, I think we have a good chance to do that. But that would solve the problem. You know, going down the road, educating about the jail, I think everyone agrees, we need a new jail. But how do we get there? A direct bond is not gonna work.
And then Carol, and then,
Hi, I'm Carol Wells. I guess I wanna know what you think that would look like to educating the public. Does it mean a continuation with Clearwater Financial, and how much would that be?
So to me, on the education side, I'll go back to location, size of the jail, and the cost. That's something we need to work on in-house right now. I think that's a big question. I think what BJ said was right, push local option tax, but I wanna push jail education too on cost, location, and size. And so the sheriff's department has some work to do. I think we can get that done within a month. Once we have all that information, BJ could have some more solid numbers about what a jail would cost. Cost is the big thing right now. It's been estimated $40 million. I think I wanna put something up for 25. That's me personally. Can I do it? I don't know. I'm gonna give it a hell of a shot. You know, do I have to reduce the size of the jail? Maybe. I don't know. But what we need to do is do both the size, the cost, and the location, plus local option tax. And I think that would alleviate a lot of the concerns within the county. I just don't wanna do one thing.
yeah, so on the, as has been mentioned, on the agenda at our, well, it may not happen at 11:45, but scheduled for 11:45 is an item, motion to approve addendum number 2 dated 5/15/26 in the master service agreement for Clearwater Financial. And that's the question before us that's going to be that, discussion decision. So,
Can you explain that to us a little bit?
yeah, so Clearwater Financial is saying we want to amend the agreement with Latah County to spend a small amount of money, it's
$2,220.
2010, to build a website to educate people about the need for the jail. Answer questions for a jail. That's the question before us at 11:45. Okay. we're gonna talk about it then. What is now supposed to happen is we have an audit presentation that's supposed to happen right now.
Okay.
And so what I'd like to do is just hear any more questions. And then we have to like break because we need to get to the audit presentation so they can do their thing and then we can come back to this at
Thank
that
you.
time. I saw 3 more questions it looks like. I'm hoping these are super quick. BJ.
I would suggest, and if it's $2,000 or $2,500, that's a reasonable amount, but educate the public on local option taxes. Without that, we're gonna go nowhere. I think we all know we need a jail, that's a known figure. Hire them to start lobbying for a local option tax. That's gonna get us farther toward a jail than anything else.
Thanks. And then Rob then, right?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Robin Weldy. I'm running for Idaho District 6 Senate. And my question is, what about the idea of receiving grant funds for the lot?
For the what?
The lot, the
Lot.
location.
We can look into that. We do have some money set aside for land purchase. So,
If we utilize those funds for other costs and receive grant funds, and maybe a grant writer would be a good position.
I can answer this real quick. So I know that there is grant funding in regards to jail infrastructure, but it's the infrastructure of the jail itself, not necessarily the property purchase.
Okay.
I know it was, I think Savannah, Georgia, they needed to stay in compliance for fire safety. They were able to get, I think it was about around like $50,000 of grant funding, but it's just for that infrastructure for maintaining compliance and safety of the inmates and staff. I don't think, it would not be for using it for the purchase of land.
The other comment that I have is, instead of spending money on a website educating people as far as, do we need a jail? What about educating people about what the property's going to look like? I know for myself, when I see a brand new modern building that our efforts and our money is going towards, I'm more motivated to make that happen. So maybe even if it's just a mock SketchUp of what it is that you're looking for and what you want us to pay for would help.
Thanks.
are we,
And then I saw,
are we getting that sketch from Rutherford?
we have something.
Okay.
Yes, I
Yes,
think you.
I'm Zena Harton. Yeah, I'm just curious, there was some mention sometime back that you had spoken with Vista about property that they own. Could you partner with Vista for a location? And then, also working on the local option tax.
We've had conversations in that direction.
And then Jace, I saw your hand.
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts real quick in some of the conversation. A couple of things to keep in mind is when we first started this a few months ago, there was not overwhelming public understanding of the jail need. There was a lot of confusion as to why it was even closed. So your efforts that you've done have come a long way. It's really easy to, when you're in the weeds, when you're there every day, you understand it, you're hearing the concerns on a daily basis. Most citizens aren't. So majority of the public is not hearing this on a regular basis. So if you don't communicate that, it won't continue to be a topic that they understand and know. So as you look forward in that communication, I guess keeping that in mind, we encourage you to keep that conversation up. And it may not necessarily be as much about the why. You kind of passed that why. I think that's what this project was, is help the public understand the why. The website would have that information available if anybody needs to catch themselves up, but then moving into the what. What is this going to be? And whether, regardless of what funding solution you go, whether it's local option tax, a bond, or some other solution, that what's going to need to be explained. The community is going to need to understand all of that information, and so being able to inform them of that, and based on the feedback the community, they want to understand that as quickly as possible. So as you make those decisions going forward, and as far as us helping you with that, a lot of that can now be done internally. You have a lot of resources available, and we can help depending on if you want to turn that up or turn that down as far as more information or less information or the different channels. But we would encourage you to continue to talk about this, continue to inform your public and have that conversation. And it is important to remember that the local option tax, as awesome as it would be, is not a tool available. And unfortunately, the legislature is the one that gets to make that decision. So as informed as the public can be and as much as you may want it, it is dependent upon them to take that first step. So that timeline is unknown. And being prepared for, is that next year, 2 years, 10 years, if that the legislature doesn't act, what do you do? And then being aware of that situation as well. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Jace, and we will, as I said, at the 11:45 meeting, take this topic up to specifically answer this question. Is Latah County gonna put money into the website to talk about the jail some more, or should we do something else? Right, so what I'd like to do is, now, I think the auditor's in the hallway getting ready to make a presentation to us. I'd like to switch over, but I can't see around the corner.
There's 3 people sitting.
Okay, let's have them come in and, do that, that would be.
Are we done with Jason and Sheridan?
Yes, so Jason Sheridan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
They can come back if they want, let's not worry about that. Right now, I just wanna
I know,
switch the.
we need to have the plans already.
Switch
Are you gonna come back and talk about the amendment
They,
or no?
We can't.
it's on the agenda, and I don't know when exactly, it's after 11:45. Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.